What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the weekend, we had some controversy hit Sony and the PlayStation 5 with their latest release and some very strategic microtransactions. We're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a very anticipated update for Halo Infinite, as well as some bad news for people hoping to play co-op campaign in the game anytime soon. And we're also going to be talking about the Vita and the Nintendo Switch, as it really does look like Vita means life. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with House of the Dead Remake. We had this announced a little while ago. Forever Entertainment would be remaking House of the Dead, putting it on the Switch, but we were just kind of waiting for a release date and even a trailer showing it off a bit more. Well, that did happen the other day. We can see the trailer, and we have the release date now of April 7th. So in about a month, this game will be out. The trailer actually looks pretty good visually. Of course, we'll be curious how it runs frame rate wise and all that. But the thing that I'm really interested in is them tackling the control scheme. They mentioned gyro aiming, but gyro aiming is not as accurate as pointer controls, which is what you would expect for a game like this. That would be more in line with like light gun controls. So we'll see about this one exactly, but I am excited for House of the Dead Remake. I'll be picking it up immediately, and we'll be seeing, I guess, how the gyro acts and if you have to reset it a lot or anything there. But either way, really cool to see House of the Dead get this remake. Go check out the trailer coming out April 7th. Also, we had talked previously about how Shredder's release date appeared to just kind of leak on the Xbox store. That's not TMNT Shredder's Revenge. No, the snowboarding game Shredders, which we have a new trailer with the release date now being official, that being March 17th. So not too long now, about 10 days, and Shredders will release. Remember, this is going into Game Pass day one, just right away. So you can at least download it and check it out if you already have Game Pass. And checking out their website, some of the description they have around the game and what you can do in it, I mean, it sounds pretty good, but all the trailers I've been seeing kind of reminds me a bit about Skater XL, which had great controls, but didn't really have a lot of content there. But according to their website, there'll be a huge open world that you can go around and participate in events in different parks and all of this. They're going to have a ton of pro snowboarders be a part of this, as well as real gear, original soundtrack, and full online multiplayer with your friends. So it sounds good. It sounds like there's a lot to do here, but I guess we'll see when it releases in about 10 days. The good news, though, is it's just going to be in Game Pass, so we can download it and try it out. I've been looking for the next big, really fun snowboarding game, and like, we had Steep. I just didn't really get into that as much, but I'm hoping this is going to at least call back to the days of Amped. It's not going to be like SSX Tricky. They're going more for simulation arcade, not all the crazy stuff you would do in SSX. But either way, looking forward to at least trying this one out in about 10 days. Oh, and one of the big reveals at the Game Awards is that Quantic Dream would be making a Star Wars game, Star Wars Eclipse. And a lot of people were curious as to the story they were going to be telling, the universe and world they would be exploring. Well, it looks like we might be waiting a while for that one. Even though it was announced in 2021, it appears it could be 6 years before this game comes out. Take a look at this over on Xfire, that being Tom Henderson with the exclusive. Quantic Dream struggles to hire for Star Wars Eclipse. Release aimed for 2027. Yeah, I was a little surprised when I saw that release year as well, because it's 2022 now. So the reasoning appears to be them having a hard time just hiring to get this project spun up and moving along, which I know we see developers and publishers at times announce games to try to recruit talent, which that happened with Splinter Cell. Remember, they announced Splinter Cell, didn't really show a lot, and then said, hey, if you'd like to help make Splinter Cell, here's a place where you can go and apply. Maybe that's what they were thinking they'd do here, nail down the licensing rights to make a new Star Wars game, and then a bunch of people would show up and say, let's make this thing. Hasn't been the case here yet, and now we're sitting here with a potential 2027 release year for Star Wars Eclipse. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Vita and the Nintendo Switch. As a lot of people did look at the Switch and say, you know what, this is kind of like the spiritual successor when it's in handheld mode, or I guess if you have a Switch Lite, to the Vita. The idea of, wow, these are like console level quality wise games that I can take on the go with me, dual analog sticks, the whole thing there with the Vita. Here comes the Switch. feels like the next generation Vita almost at times. But what if you could play Vita games on the Switch? Well, it looks like that could end up being a reality here as we head into the future. We can see this posted up over on Wolo, where they say Vita scene veteran developer Xerpe has released Vita 2 HOS, that being Vita to Horizon OS, an interface library that allows running Vita executables on the Nintendo Switch. They say Vita 2 HOS is a translation layer, an API that reroutes Vita routine calls to native Switch equivalents. The idea here being this isn't necessarily like an emulator as we'd think, where it's trying to mimic Vita CPU and GPU. Instead, it'll reroute libraries with native Switch counterparts. And in fact, if you look in the README for the Vita 2 HOS, says PlayStation Vita ARM v7 CPU executables can be run natively on Nintendo Switch ARM v8 CPU in 32-bit execution mode. When loading a PlayStation Vita executable, Vita 2 HOS redirects the module imports of said executable to jump to routines that implement the same behavior by using native Horizon OS services like the one exposed by the original PlayStation Vita OS modules. Now, before I go any further, I would recommend checking out MVG, who did a video on this. He's developer with the Switch, so obviously this is kind of his territory here, but I just thought it was so interesting that all of a sudden we have kind of this breakthrough where, wait, Vita games could run natively on the Switch in the future. I say in the future because this is like literally 0.1 alpha release for this. It's more of like, hey, we can do this. And the most I've seen so far is what MVG was running in his video, that being like a tech demo of like the triangle renderer, and then sort of like, hey, this is where I'm pointing to on the Switch digitizer, that being the touchscreen for the Vita. But that's kind of how things start, right? You get this basic idea with this translation layer that's being developed, and then the kind of the homebrew scene works on it, develops it, and the idea is, well, we wouldn't need the overhead of like an emulator where you're trying to mimic the Vita CPU and the GPU. It would more or less translate a lot of the calls to what the Switch understands better at a native level, and then all of a sudden, maybe you do have Vita games that run 100% in terms of like speed and maybe even compatibility. Now, because this is a translation layer, there probably will still be some odd things that take place. It would probably take time to be smoothed out overall. Like, you might get some weird glitches and some games just completely breaking, but the idea that the Vita could technically live on with the Switch, sure, in the homebrew scene, like, you would have to hack a Switch to be able to do all of this, but it's still possible, and it's still very impressive what we've seen come out of the Switch homebrew community. Obviously, the device is very compelling to a lot of people to get to this point, but also the ease of being able to hack the Switch has probably enabled this as well, and there being like 20 or 30 million Switch systems that released before Nintendo and Nvidia were able to fix it. I mean, a paperclip gets the job done, but really cool. And I'll be curious to see how this continues to evolve. Would we get to a point where all of the applications and games on the Vita that Sony is clearly ready to leave behind, could they live on with the Switch? Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5, Gran Turismo 7, and some controversy around microtransactions for this game. I will say, if you played GT Sport, right, on the PlayStation 4, you probably understand that microtransactions would most likely, in some way, be a part of Gran Turismo 7 because they released a lot of cars that you could just outright buy in GT Sport for a while. I was expecting there to be a bunch of cars there pretty quickly here, but something interesting happened, which we can see this over on VGC. They say Gran Turismo 7's microtransactions have gone live on the game's release day, revealing a significant increase in price over its PlayStation 4 predecessor. So, the way this works in Gran Turismo 7 is you have credits, and there's a button you can hit that is like top off, which I talked about this as I was first experiencing this game in my initial impressions of Gran Turismo 7, so make sure you check out that video if you want to see this in real time, where we realized, yeah, there's literally a way to buy 20 million credits for $20. And I didn't take a look at the cars that you could buy, but some of them are pretty expensive, like to the point where you may end up spending $40 to be able to get enough credits, because you may see one car that's 3 million credits. Well, they don't sell 3 million credits by itself. You have to buy 2 million credits twice for $40 and then just have $10 worth of credits kind of sitting around, which is a bit different than how they did it with GT Sport, where a car would be added and it's like 99 cents or like $1.99 and that's it. You would just buy it on the PlayStation Network and it would show up in your like gift tab or purchase tab or whatever in GT Sport. It appears they're kind of going with the fake money method where you have to buy more currency than you actually need in order to buy one of these cars. One of the big things that people are looking at here and they're realizing, it's like, wait a minute, the review embargo was like midway through the week. These microtransactions went live on release day, after the reviews were out. The question is, would these microtransactions have affected the review scores? Because they definitely would have come up in reviews as people would have looked at it and said, wait a minute, is there like an artificial grind that's maybe pushing me towards these microtransactions? Has this affected the game itself when it comes to credit distribution as you win races? Because if you played Gran Turismo before, it is a grind. Like, being able to get enough credits to get one of those really cool supercars takes a while, but it's always kind of been like that, and looking at a way to fast track, I guess, by spending $10, $20, $30, $40 is something that's really come on here with the live service aspect of these games. Gran Turismo 7 is one of Sony's live service games that they have mentioned. It's been a live service for a while now, even dating back to the PlayStation 3, but definitely with GT Sport, I had a feeling this was going to happen with Gran Turismo 7, but the way that this was kind of set up by Sony, I mean, yeah, it's shades of Activision. I mean, we jumped on Activision with Crash Team Racing, where they had something that looked just like a shop, and we were like, I think that's going to turn into a shop with credits and microtransactions. It did, but after the reviews that are kind of set in stone for a lot of sites, I don't know, will they go back and change their scores, or if they believe that it's now affected their opinion of the game? Probably not. And that was kind of calculated on Sony's part here. So I mean, it's what we look at and point out and criticize Activision or Ubisoft for, so kind of the same thing here with Sony. And then you tie in the fact that it's a $70 full price game with these kind of egregious microtransactions. Yeah, that's a tough one. So they are optional. Like, you could just play the game as you normally would with Gran Turismo and buy the cars as you're able to. But after playing it for a few more hours after my initial impressions, it's going to take a while to get enough credits. And yeah, that top off button is always right there when you're looking at your credit balance. So Sony definitely knows what they're doing. Next up, let's talk about Halo Infinite and an anticipated update. That being the start of Season 2, because I feel like this game just needs some sort of update, new content, anything at this point. They've run these temporary events, but certainly has not had the effect that I think 343 was anticipating here, as people are just kind of getting bored of the game and moving on. I mean, the competition is stiff when it comes to these free-to-play multiplayer experiences, because some of these games like Fortnite or Warzone or Apex Legends are just constantly doing updates. It just seems like 343 wasn't really sure what to expect or how to plan this out, but we do have a release date for Season 2. It's May 3rd, so yeah, it's like another 2 months. Like, there are a lot of people I know who are just thinking, hey, I'll come back when the next season starts to check it out. They did release an entire blog post along with the big theme for Season 2, which you can see here. It is Lone Wolves. Again, May 3rd, they do go over some of the additions here. That includes playlist updates, balance changes, new modes, and maps, so at least they have something there when it comes to new content. One arena map called Catalyst, and one big team battle map named Breaker. The new modes include Last Spartan Standing, a free-for-all elimination mode, as well as another new mode named Land Grab, plus the return of an updated all-time favorite mode, King of the Hill. All right, so we have 2 maps coming, a couple of modes, and obviously a new battle pass. It's going to have different like pieces of armor, coatings, all that stuff to unlock. My question now is, we've been waiting a little while for a new season to start. I mean, I finished the battle pass from my account a while ago, level 100 and all of this. 2 maps, is that enough to do these seasonal updates? Because it seems like we're going to get maybe a couple of seasons a year at this point, just based on the roadmap from Season 1 to Season 2. 2 maps? I'm not sure if that's necessarily enough to hold people over for another 4, 5, 6 months. Oh, when it comes to co-op, it looks like that's gonna be a little while too. This was part of that blog post where they say we're making great progress on Campaign Network co-op, and to be clear, this work has been occurring in parallel to Season 2 work as has our work on Forge, but the reality is that it's going to take more time to land a high-quality, full-featured 4-player network co-op experience in the massive, wide-open world of Halo Infinite. They do mention they're committed to a great 2-player split-screen co-op experience on all Xbox consoles. That includes the original Xbox One through the Xbox Series X. And I have to wonder if this game was only made for the Xbox Series platforms, if this would be taking as long for co-op and split screen and all of that, but I guess we'll never know. They do mention that co-op for campaign is going to be later on in Season 2. They don't mention exactly when, just that they will share a release date as soon as they can. As for Forge, because this is a big one, and you know what? The faster they can get Forge out, the better, because then the community can at least take over and start creating new content themselves. They're looking at Season 3. None of us really know when Season 3 is happening. Could be like, honestly, could be in the fall. I mean, if we're getting this Season 2 to start up at the beginning of May, I mean, what you're looking like maybe 4 or 5 months, so after summer into maybe even September for Season 3. I mean, Forge, there have been some leaked screenshots and different things around it. It looks like there's going to be a lot to it. Like, we have full scripting, everything. People could make maybe entire campaign levels out of Forge, not just like, oh, here's an arena that we move some stuff around and great, you guys can like basically run around, do Team Slayer in like this kind of sandbox. So like it being so fully featured based on some of the news is great. It's just Halo Infinite was delayed for a year and it still wasn't ready. And it seems like they didn't even show up with a plan for how to continue after its initial launch, which is very unfortunate. But at least now I guess we have a day to look forward to, May 3rd for Season 2 to spin up. Look forward to some sort of release day for co-op campaign, and then I guess Forge 5 or 6 months from now. It's just, this is gonna be a game that I think is gonna take quite a while to really get moving here. The fact that it's probably gonna be over a year for this game to at least get some of the basic features we had with things like Halo 3, it's unfortunate, but I'll be checking in from time to time, especially now though, there's just a lot to play, so Halo will be kind of on the back burner until we get to Season 2. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about March 10th, also known as Mario Day, which is like Mar and then you get it. There are a bunch of sales going on right now from Nintendo as well as third parties, which we can see this over on the sales and deals page with Mario Day Sale. This will be running until March 13th, and it looks like it's mostly Mario themed games, as you would expect for the Switch. They did put Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on sale, which is absolutely hilarious because the game's already sold over 40 million copies, but Nintendo said, you know what? We'll give you this one. We'll take it down 33% down to $40.19. Then we also have Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury down to $40.19. Same with New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, as well as Luigi's Mansion 3 and Yoshi's Crafted World. And then we also have Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is a great game, but this is probably the cheapest I've ever seen it at $10. So yeah, that's probably a good one to pick up there. And then there's also Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games being $41.99. Otherwise though, outside of Kingdom Battle, I mean, I guess the big one's Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. It's a good game, and at $40, not bad. But really looking at this, Nintendo didn't really dig deep for this. Like, some of the games, great, they have first party titles on sale, not something you usually see, but I feel like we've seen these games on sale many, many times previously from different retailers at better prices than these. Anyway, we also have some other sales, some from Bethesda, Doom, Doom 2, Doom 3, Doom 64, all marked down pretty substantially, 50% or more on those. And then we also have Doom 2016. That's down 75% to $9.99. Doom Eternal down 67%, down to $19.79. I mean, those are the deals right there. You can pick up all kinds of Doom games for super cheap. You also have Focus running a sale, but that's like Plague Tale Cloud version, which I really can't recommend any of the cloud versions, but the Aeon Must Die, Call of Cthulhu. They did also have Vampire. That's down to $15.19, which was an interesting game to check out. And then we have Ubisoft with a couple of titles. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, 50% off, down to $7.49. Immortals Phoenix Rising, down 75% to $15. Assassin's Creed 3, down to $14.79. And also the Assassin's Creed, the Rebel Collection, which does have Assassin's Creed Black Flag, very, very good Assassin's Creed game, that down to $14.79. But looking up and down the sales for these different games, I mean, the best deals are probably with Doom. That's where I'd be spending some of my money right now, 50, 60, 70% off. I'd even look towards retailers for Mario Day as opposed to Nintendo, because you may see like a Best Buy or a GameStop or even an Amazon try to take advantage of Mario Day and do their own discounts that could be better than Nintendo, who said, fine, we'll go ahead and put Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on sale. He twisted our arm. I know it's sold over 40 million, but we'll throw you guys a bone. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, of the classic Pokemon starters, which one would you usually pick? Wow, 55% said Charmander. That's usually what I would go with, but I will admit, going with like Bulbasaur or Squirtle made it way easier in the beginning for the original Blue and Red. In fact, they actually had to add in a move, I believe, for Charmander and like Fire Red, just to make that first gym a little easier there. But I know a lot of people went with Squirtle. Obviously turned into Blastoise, and Blastoise was on the front for Pokemon Blue, but I would always go Charmander, because if you can get through that first little bit, the first two gyms, the game, I think, was a lot more fun having a fire Pokemon immediately out of the gate, and turned into Charizard eventually. So yeah, a lot of people were going for that. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Luther saying, while I am loving Elden Ring's success, it does make me wonder about their future games. If they continue in the direction of open world with the quality Elden Ring has produced, then we may be looking at 5+ years between new games, similar to what Zelda is now doing because of Breath of the Wild's success. Yeah, I mean, that is something you have to consider with these games. They just take a long time to make. Elden Ring is not a game that was done in a couple of years. It probably took a while to get this game done, but like, the end result is incredible. Elden Ring is a game that I feel like people are gonna be finding things in for a long time. Like, most people will be playing games on and off throughout a week, and the Elden Ring is a game that could legitimately last someone an entire year of just on and off play as they have time and their busy lives and all of this. And who's to say they don't add more content to Elden Ring, as there have been some things that are found. I know Lance McDonald actually found an entire like Coliseum that's not at all used right now. So they could continue building on Elden Ring while they work to develop an entire new open world Souls experience, or who knows, maybe they have another team work on a more linear one, like a Demon Souls, or maybe do some sort of offshoot like Sekiro. So a lot of possibilities here, but it's really cool to see the Souls series with Elden Ring just get thrusted into the mainstream with the sales and people really jumping onto this as their first one, which makes me think that they could, if they do well enough in Elden Ring and they get into it, continue to have big time sales around these different Souls games going forward. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was Sony and the controversy around their microtransactions in Gran Turismo 7. How do you feel about them adding the microtransactions in after the reviews posted? Also, what about Vita games on the Switch? Not even through emulation, but natively? Do you think this is going to be a big thing for the Switch and Vita homebrew scene going forward? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.